Hey everyone, give it a sec here. If you have your recusant set, this is the time to open it if you already haven't started to open. How's it going, Ray? Good to see you again. All right, let's get started. Once again, my name is Garrett. I am the tasting room manager and brand ambassador at Zaca Mesa Winery. Also have been heading our live tastings since we started doing these. And since we have returned to full-time at the winery, we have moved to doing our live tastings to the first Wednesday of every month. This is the second of those first Wednesdays. And now what we're doing is kind of making the tastings a little more extensive, whereas before I would focus on a single wine, and it would be maybe 15-20 minutes, and then our Saturday tasting was a little more in depth. Since we're doing it once a month, I'm going to focus on more of a set of wines or a topic, and spend a little more time diving into it. As always, this is interactive, so if, for anyone who has any questions during our tasting tonight, please feel free to type them in. I will be here with my laptop answering any questions as they come in. We did do a promotion on the recusant set, which is these three wines that we're tasting tonight, so hopefully for those who had the opportunity to buy one or all three of these, you were able to do that before our tasting tonight, so you can taste along with me. If not, do not worry. We are running this promo still through the end of the week, so if you missed your chance to getting the recusant, you can still order that during or after our tasting tonight. After the live tasting, this will be on our Instagram page as well, and there will be a link on our Instagram page to YouTube where you can watch this later. Thanks everyone for joining tonight. I'm really excited. I'm going to be doing our recusant wine program. This is a fairly new program for us. This is actually the very first vintage of this set, and this is the only vintage that we actually broke down the juice into three different vessels. So for the 2016 vintage, the recusant program is a set of three wines. You can purchase them as a set of three, or if you just want one of the vessels, you can do that as well. We are getting low on inventory of this vintage, but don't worry, the 2017 vintage will be coming out at some point this year, and the 2017 is just straight clay amphora. So this is the only vintage that is aged in the three different vessels. So going from my left to right, we have the 2016 recusant that is aged in a neutral French oak barrels. In the middle is the 2016 recusant aged in the concrete vessel. And then on my very right, this is the 2016 recusant aged in the clay vessel. So we have three different vessel types that are used for this particular vintage and program. The blending component of this wine is a Grenache and Mourvèdre blend. So it is basically a 50-50 blend of our Grenache and our Mourvèdre that is used for this. So basically how the program works, once we pick the grapes are then put into open top fermenters and fermentation is began. Some of that juice from that program goes into neutral French oak to finish its fermentation and aging. Some of the juice goes into our Nico Velo concrete vessels, and then some goes into the clay amphora. So the juice itself is always in that one vessel through its whole aging process. It does not go, partially in oak and then concrete and then clay and then blended back together. These are all entirely separate in these 3 different vessels for its whole lifespan of aging. These vessels do not cross. It's all single in each one of those vessels. And again, this is a blend of Grenache and Mourvèdre for the blending components. And it's aged 16 months in those vessels. So 16 months, one is oak or a neutral oak, 16 months, one is concrete, 16 months is clay. So these do not cross. They are all in these single vessels for aging. So the whole idea of this program is really just to highlight not only these varietals and their signature characteristics, but the signature characteristics of the aging vessels that they are aged in. So whereas neutral French oak is going to be different from concrete, as concrete's going to be different from clay, and clay different from oak. I thought it was really cool to have all the same juice from the same vintage, and then have those 3 different wines, because there really is a difference. And if you have the wine in front of you tonight, you will definitely see a difference from those vessels. It's not a trick. The aging vessel itself has little different nuances that it adds to the wine. So I'm going to start with our neutral French oak, and then go to concrete and go to clay, just structure-wise is kind of the order I like to go in. I am using our Zaca Mesa Riedel Hermitage glass, which is our Rhône style glass, which works beautifully for Rhône varietals. All right, let's get started. If anybody at home has any of these wines, I hope you are enjoying them with me. And if you want to taste with me, starting with the oak and follow me, please, by all means, do. But if not, do your own thing. And taste as you like. And again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to put them in, and I'll get to them as we go through the tasting. So let's start with what I think most people are probably most likely to be familiar with, and what most of our wine, and a lot of wines in the world, are aged in, and that's French oak. So French oak, there's many different producers from different areas of France where French oak comes from, and different ways those barrels can be put together and toasted, and all those little factors are going to play an effect on how that wine is going to taste once it's aged in the vessel. For this particular topic and program tonight, this wine is aged in all neutral. So just to kind of touch a little bit on what that means. So there's a percentage of new oak and neutral oak that's used on aging wine. If you've been on wine tasting and you're kind of familiar with this, you might have heard your host or hostess talking about percentage of new oak. Oh, this wine's aged 40% in new French oak, or it's aged 100% in neutral French oak. So in this case, this wine's in neutral, and what that basically means is exactly how it sounds. Neutral is going to be neutral. It's not imparting as much flavor, but it does play an effect on how the wine ages inside the vessel. There's oxygen that's introduced to this wine as it's aging, as well as there's some techniques you can do to the wine as it's aging in the vessel. One of those is stirring, batonnage, which is stirring the wine as it's aging in the vessel. That gets all the dead lees and sediment moving around, and often that can add some nice texture and mouthfeel to the wine. A lot of our white wines are done this way. We don't use a lot of new oak on any of our whites except for our Recusant program. So doing a little bit of that stirring and moving that sediment around just kind of coats and fills in that palate, that middle palate of the wine. So if it's 50% new oak, that means 50% of the juice from that vintage and bottling was aged in a new barrel, which is considered anywhere from 1 to about 3 years old. And after that, it starts becoming what's called neutral. And then the other remaining 50% of the juice would be aged in a neutral barrel. So unless they are using some other type of vessel like concrete or stainless steel. So that's basically what the oak means in a nutshell. The percentages is just how much new or how much neutral is being used. And obviously more new oak, you're going to get more oak profile, more flavors from the actual oak vessel itself. Whereas more neutral oak, it's not adding as much flavor, but it does its part in allowing the wine to breathe and helping to soften the tannin profile as it's aging. So let's start with the neutral and see how what the flavor profile is like on the neutral. So if you have this wine, please drink with me. All right, Terry, you are tasting with me. Awesome. Glad you guys have the wine. Please give me feedback as you guys taste. Let me know what you guys think. All right. So right off the bat, while the oak's not adding a lot of flavor to the wine, it has that, the aging or the oxidation effect of the oak barrel itself. And the fruit is a little riper, a little fresher. With the Grenache, Grenache is going to add more of that red fruit, more strawberry, a little more of the raspberry, or Grenache is also can have some herbaceous notes to it, like dried herbs. And then the Mourvèdre is going to be more of the spice, the tannin profile, more black and blue fruit, blueberry, black cherry, a little more tart. So with the neutral French oak, I think this is a good one to start with because this is really kind of your kind of base of what you're going to be most familiar with, and as you kind of move over, you'll really start to notice the difference in profile. All right, let's try the concrete. Oh yeah. Whew. That's good. So the concrete itself, it kind of adds this kind of a little mineral note, a little salinity from the vessel itself. And one of the things I really love about the concrete, it really brings out the fruit profile. So the concrete tanks that we use they're called Nico Velo concrete vessels, and in production they're known as the elefantes because they literally look like a giant elephant body. I mean, they're enormous. We have 3 of these vessels. Each one is a little over 1,000 gallons. 1,000 gallons. They're about 6 inches thick, the concrete itself. So there's a couple different effects with the concrete. The concrete itself, there's some porousness to it. So, with that, there's going to be some flavor imparted. It has this micro-oxidative effect, so it's very, very, very slowly introducing oxygen into this wine as it's aging. And one of the effects of that is it really retains a lot of the fruit profile. The aromatics are really fresh and vibrant. Especially with varietals like Grenache, that can be a little more reductive, which means they're sensitive to oxygen, and you can lose a lot of that in barrel aging because when you're introducing oxygen quickly to the wine, it can have that effect. So when you have the concrete, which is a little softer and slower, you get this really nice kind of silky tannin profile, this more kind of lush, red fruit that comes off, especially with the Grenache. And just creates this beautiful wine. So picture-wise, so this is the concrete, if you guys can see that. This is the clay. Obviously this is an oak barrel. I think we've all seen oak barrels before. So this is the concrete vessel. This is the Nico Velo concrete vessel. And like I said, each one of these is a little over 1,000 gallons each, and we have 3 of these guys. So kind of give you just a little understanding of how these vessels look. Another benefit of the concrete itself is because it's concrete and it's 6 inches thick. It keeps it cool, keeps the wine cool, keeps it from overheating as it's aging and fermenting in there. Has this nice kind of just automatic cooling property to it because of the thickness of the concrete. So there's multiple benefits of the concrete itself. For the one thing that you don't get from concrete, obviously, is the oak flavor. So there's no oak being imparted. To me, it's a little more naturalistic. It's a little more pure expression of those varietals because you're not really imparting flavor. There is some mineral tone to it, but it's not overwhelming. Susan asks, are the blends in each bottling the same percentage? So yes, give or take a percentage. So as I was kind of talking about at the beginning, it's the Grenache and Mourvèdre. That juice was divided into each one of these vessels. It's never blended back together after being in those vessels. So it sees that vessel during its entire aging, and it's roughly 50-50, give or take a percentage, but it's basically a 50-50 blend of Grenache and Mourvèdre. Gary Johnson, the vessel is pictured on the label for each of the recusant. Yes. So if you purchase these bottles, on the bottle itself, you'll see the vessel we put actually on the bottle. So you will know, which bottle what vessel you're getting, just by the nice little picture on there. A really fun thing to do, and something that I always recommend to people that were, when we first released this wine, when you buy it as a 3-pack, and if you're doing a blind tasting kind of deal, or you have friends that you do blind tastings with, this is a really fun, kind of unique way of doing it, because you can try to have fun kind of picking out which one is which vessel, because they are different. And if you're not familiar with the characteristics of each one of those vessels, it could be fun to kind of do a blind tasting with. Once you kind of, myself, knowing these wines now, I can pick them out by the nose, which one is concrete, which one is oak, and which one is clay, just from, being familiar with the distinct characteristics of each one of those vessels. And I do have a favorite. We each kind of, at the winery, we each kind of have our favorite vessel that we like. I do have my personal preference. So, neutral oak, concrete. Let's taste some of that amphora. So just a couple kind of neat facts about the... Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention the concrete is actually made the concrete mix from a local riverbed in Italy. So we actually had these things shipped over from Italy. They're custom made and using rocks from a riverbed in Italy, which is kind of cool. You're kind of like putting some of those mineral characteristics of from Italy, onto the wine, which is kind of cool. But these are brought over on these huge freighters, and then we have to have a crane pick this thing up and then put it into our production area. It's quite the spectacle, but it's incredibly heavy. Forget the tonnage, but you can imagine, a concrete tank that holds over 1,000 gallons. That's going to be pretty heavy. So over to the amphora. So, the clay amphoras are super cool. These date back thousands of years ago. These are some of the original aging vessels for not only wine but water and other liquids. The Greeks used them, the Egyptians used them. It's clay. Clay dates back thousands and thousands of years ago. So this is really cool. It's like you're kind of jumping into a time warp when you're drinking this bottle. I like to kind of picture myself, sitting, in one of those robes in Greece, sipping on some wine. So it kind of has that really cool kind of nostalgic feel to it. These amphora vessels, we have 2 of them. One of them we use for 100% Syrah, that's called the amphora Syrah, and then the other one is used for our recusant. So we have 2 of these amphora vessels, one for each program. So we have a Syrah that we also age in the clay. Going forward, the recusant program, the 2017 vintage that will be coming out, that is aged only in clay. So it doesn't have the 3, it's just aged in the clay vessel. So this first vintage was just kind of a premier, a cool little 3-pack that we released. We also did an event surrounded about it, 2 events now. One was called Battle of the Vessels, and it was led by our winemaking team, and they took people through our production facility, tasted through each one of these vessels, different wines through the vessels, to really kind of give a really cool in-depth look at each one of these vessels, and we actually got to taste from the tank itself. So yeah, these clay amphora vessels, date back thousands of years ago. Super cool. They have this kind of like dirty, earthy clay mineral tone that adds to the wine, and while dirt maybe doesn't sound that appealing, it's actually really cool, and it has this really kind of unique profile on the wine itself. It's kind of earthy and minerally at the same time. Question: are the aging times different depending on the vessel? So in this particular program, they're all aged 16 months. So to keep it, unified and the same, when it comes to, trying these vessels next to each other, they are all aged 16 months in these vessels. Another cool thing that I did with the clay portion, so you probably can guess which one of these 3 is my favorite. I had a sample bottle that I used in an event back in, either 2017. It was a futures event in Los Alamos, and the point of the event was for wineries to bring something that hasn't even been bottled yet, hasn't been released yet. It's a future, and then people can pre-order these wines. So I poured in this bottle. Or this glass, are the 2016 Recusant Amphora, but it is, this was bottled from the tank. So that's why I want this bottle here. If you notice, if you have a keen eye, this one was not open. This was actually taken from the tank and bottled, just hand bottled by our assistant winemaker Randy at the time, hand bottled and used for this event. So I opened this tonight. I still had not opened. I had 3 left over, 1 from each vessel. So I wanted to do this one in the amphora, and I'm going to bring it to work tomorrow to share with the team. But this is unfiltered. So this was aging in tank. It hadn't even gone through its full aging process in tank. And just looking at it, and it's probably hard to see on the camera, but it's unfiltered. It's it's cloudy and thick, and it's got all the sediment in there. So just really cool. And I wanted to out of the 3 that I was tasting tonight, taste this one. The other thing that's cool too, now that these are 2016 vintage, which just in general was a phenomenal vintage. In California in general, but now this wine's 4 years old. It's really had some time to settle and bottle, and it's just tasting amazing. All right, that's funky. Yeah. That's really good. Oh yeah. So one of the really kind of cool, unique things. One of the things that kind of reminds me of. I know this is gonna sound weird, but it tastes like it smells when the wine's fermenting. If that makes sense. The grapes, the taste that it just kind of clicked in my head. The smell when Grenache Mourvèdre is fermenting is how it's tasting right now. It's just that fruit. It almost smells like bubblicious or juicy fruit. That's what I'm thinking of. Just that really kind of like sweet fruit. It's just real. The fruit is just so fresh and just really savory. And with the unfilteredness of it, it just has that really kind of like dried earth and spice and some of these clay earthy mineral notes to it. So really cool. Maybe we should go with unfiltered next time. All right, another question. Ray, would this idea be used on any other types of wine in the future? Yeah, so, I mean, we have the Recusant program, and then we do the Syrah Amphora. First vintage of that was 2014. And then we have the Inceptive program, which is the Syrah blend that's aged in concrete. So there is other vessel programs. The program of doing, 3 separate vessels of the same juice, as far as I'm aware of, there's no plans in the near future to do another 3-pack set like this. I think this was just a great way of kind of introducing these vessels in a unique way. But as far as like doing separate vessels in a separate bottlings, we don't have any plans for that at the moment. Mel, is there a region in Europe which is known for aging in clay? Yeah, I mean, so the clay vessels itself we actually got from Italy, and there's a lot of wines that are aged in Italy in clay. So the amphora vessel is not new. Like I was saying, these date back thousands of years, and there's actual really like old ancient amphoras that are used in some wineries, whereas ours, was custom made for us for this purpose. But the clay amphoras, they've been around for a long time, and they still are, and they're still used in winemaking today. The reason, one of the major, just a small history lesson. One of the main reasons why the clay started to kind of cycle out is when the Roman Empire took over. They used oak barrels to transport liquid and food and everything across their vast empire, and the clay is heavier, it's much more fragile, so they started using oak barrels to transport, and that's kind of how the clay kind of got slowly pushed out, and oak became the most prevalent way of transporting wine and other food and liquids. So the clay is still used today. Another cool process with the clay is they actually dig a hole and put the clay underground to keep it cool and insulated. I believe, I can't remember when I saw this, but a few years back, there actually was an amphora that was found, at the bottom of the ocean in a sunken shipwreck, and the wine was still preserved in the vessel, which is pretty amazing. I'm not sure how the wine would taste. I probably wine back, thousands of years ago wasn't made to be analyzed and other than just drinking and having fun. But pretty cool to see, the longevity of these vessels, and how they can last so long and how they're still used today. Oak barrels don't last forever. We get maybe 8 to 10 years use out of a brand new barrel. And they only have that new impact for about the first 3, maybe 4 years. And after that, they become neutral. So we have to get new barrels every year. Whereas the concrete, they can last, as long as we maintain them, they can last a long, long time. So, as far as a resource, the concrete's much more effective. But, of course, again, you don't get that oak characteristic that we love from the oak barrels themselves. Any other questions, comments out there? Anybody that's drinking this wine have any? What's your thoughts? What do you like out of the 3? What's your favorite? If anybody out there is drinking these wines. So cool. And the uniqueness of each vessel is just so distinctive. Try it online. Like them all. Great answer. Yes, they are all very, very good. Do you have one out of the 3 that maybe you like a little bit more? Just a little bit more? We're loving the amphora. All are good in different ways, though. Clay is amazing. Yeah, I mean, we got two folks out there that prefer the clay out of the three. So going forward, like I said, the 2017 is only in clay. And if you haven't tried our amphora Syrah, I highly recommend it. Syrah aged in a clay vessel, very, very cool. Oh, look who's come to join me. This is our new cat Dexter. He's coming to join in with me a little bit. He's named after Dexter after one of our favorite TV shows, Dexter. And our dog is named Jax after Jax Teller from Sons of Anarchy. So this is my little guy here. Little guest appearance. I like the concrete for the smooth, clean taste and mouthfeel. Great with Breed Bay. Clay is best. Concrete has different smell than other two. Yeah. Out of the three, obviously the concrete and the clay are probably the more unique. Neutral oak is pretty common, but the reason why we have the neutral oak is to really to have the distinctive between the three. I would say that the clay and the concrete are more similar than the oak. The oak really is the standout between the three of them that you can really tell is different, like really different. The clay has that like I said, that kind of like dirty, earthy note to it, whereas the concrete itself just has a soft mineral tone. The fruit's really lush and vibrant, and the tannin profile is a little more silky and refined. I haven't tasted these wines actually in a while. It's really cool to see how they've kind of changed through the bottle aging. We will call you tomorrow to order more. You got it, Terry. Anytime. I will be at the winery tomorrow. Just call me at the winery. Can't wait to do the blind taste test with friends. Yeah, super fun. See who can pick out the right vessel. Wearing my Recusant shirt tonight. All right. Awesome. Yeah, we have a shirt that we sell out of the winery in the tasting room that actually has it's the Recusant t-shirt, and it has the three vessels on the back, and it says the vessel matters. So it's pretty cool. That was another one of the events that we did. That was called the Vessel Matters. A taste through our different vessels. Couple announcements. Again, the winery is open 7 days a week by reservation. So just give us a call at the winery to set up an appointment. Question, is this the estate vineyard? How old are the vines? Yeah, so Grenache and Mourvèdre, all the Rhône varietals that we produce are all always estate. We have an awesome estate for Rhône varietals. Why go anywhere else? We do, Pinot and Chardonnay and Cabernet Sauvignon from different vineyards that we source. We got all the Rhônes here. So yes, the Grenache and Mourvèdre in these bottlings are from our vineyard. So the Grenache vines, pretty cool. These actually, the original rootstock of those vines are some of the oldest vines, original rootstocks on our estate. They were actually planted in 73. So some of the very first plantings of vines, and we grafted it over to Grenache in the 90s. So the rootstock itself is very, very old. The Mourvèdre, I believe, was planted in the early 2000s, 2001, 2002. So still, almost or close to 20 plus years old now. So these are a bit older. Next Wednesday of the first Wednesday of the month in September, I will be tasting through our Burgundian varietals. So if you like Burgundians, if you like Pinot and Chardonnay and Pinot Blanc, get some bottles and taste with me. I'll be tasting through our Homage series and tasting our new Chardonnay, the Zodovich Vineyard Chardonnay from Santa Rita Hills. So I'm going to introduce, we do so many great Rhône varietals. A lot of people don't even realize that we make fantastic Burgundian varietals as well. So I'll be introducing some of those to you folks, and you can purchase those wine ahead of time. We'll have a deal with that as we get closer to the dates. Just keep your eye out for that. This video link will be on our page where you can watch it again on YouTube, as well as on IGTV. Had the Zodovich last night. So good. Awesome. Yeah, I love that Zodovich Chardonnay. Just super mineral driven. I love Chablis, and it just kind of reminds me, it has that New World quality to it, but with the Chablis twist. It's a beautiful, beautiful Chardonnay. But how about these wines? These are great. I'm really happy that I got to taste through these. Like I said, I hadn't tasted these in a while, and then opening, this guy that's, unfiltered, super cool. I'm gonna have to talk to Kristin, our winemaker, to see if maybe we can do an unfiltered vintage. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you everyone for watching. You can still purchase these wines this week for for club members. You get your club discount with $10 shipping and a cool pack. So please order more if you like. Terry, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Give me a call and I'll get your order in. Otherwise, I hope to see everyone first Wednesday of September. And we'll be going through our Burgundians. So get your Pinot hat on, and we'll have some fun. Thanks everyone for watching again. My name is Garrett, Zaca Mesa Winery, and I hope to see you guys again soon. Cheers and thank you.